Na početku ove prezentacije, na početku ovog panela, ćemo vam pustiti prezentaciju gospodina Martina Kerridgea. Prezentacija će ići na srpskom jeziku, a Martin će predstavljati na engleskom. Tako da ćete svi imati prilike da razumete šta i kako radi. Izvolite, Martin.
Okay, dobar dan everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here and meet you all. I'm sorry that I'm going to be speaking in English, but we will be putting the main points on the screen in the Serbian language.
Excuse me, Mr. Kerridge. Please speak slowly and give the time for interpreter to translate your slides.
So just a word about me. I started my career in the bus industry in a major bus company in Oxford. I was just there for about a year as a traffic trainee. Then I joined the railways as a trainee there. Then I left them for a while to study economics, went back to the railway. Then I went into local government, worked with local government transport, coordinated transport, road and rail. And then I was employed by the Confederation of Passenger Transport in the UK, which is like Serbia Transport here. It was the organisation of all the bus companies. I was their chief economist. And then I went back into consultancy, did an MBA, and I've been travelling around different countries, different transport projects. So actually that's a quick introduction. So I think it's always good to start with the passenger. The passenger is why we're here, and so we should think very much always about what they are needing and how to improve things for the passenger to strengthen the business. So regarding local transport, you may be aware that the State Audit Office a few years ago discovered that over 40% of Serbian municipalities have no regular organised bus service. There's a widespread lack of public transport in rural areas and smaller towns in Serbia. And of course, this has adverse social and economic consequences, social isolation, often long walks, often for children, reduced urban-rural economic linkages, reduced economic activities, reduced opportunities for employment. So we'll come back to that issue. For the longer distance trips, the National Transport Strategy interviewed passengers at 15 city coach stations around the country and found that about 40% of the passengers said they had no car available for the journey. About 20% said they had no car at all in the household. But that still seems to leave a lot of overlap where there's a scope for competition between the bus and the car. We also found that 12% of passengers had to make an intermediate change, most commonly in a bus station, to reach their destination. That shows there may be scope also for more through services to different destinations. We asked the passengers what would make their journey better. No big surprises here. Better buses, lower fares, better schedules, Wi-Fi, and quicker journeys.
Excuse me, next slide, Mr. Kerridge. Next slide.
That's those are the figures that I've just been reading. So it shows the broad scope of what people were requesting and the main things. World Bank made a very interesting study of bus transport in Serbia 4 years ago. They found that the fares are higher in Serbia than in any country in the EU. Even though Serbian cost of living, its standards of living are generally lower, the bus fares are the highest in the EU than any in the EU. And they also found that there's fewer bus firms in the market in Serbia than in any EU country. There's about 3 firms per 100,000 population in Serbia, which is only a quarter of the EU average, and many EU countries have much more than 4 times the Serbian number of bus firms. They found that the coach station fees tend to be high, also compared with the EU, and sometimes the coach stations, they try to look after their own fleets, which has caused problems in the past. They found that online sales were few in Serbia compared with other countries. This is 4 years ago, of course, so it may be different now, but they found that only 6% of tickets were being purchased online, and for comparison, in the UK at that time it was 60%. They found that the entry into the market for a small operator is difficult in Serbia. The law requires for intercity scheduled bus services, you must have 3 buses, 3 drivers minimum. The EU does not have such a restriction, and it means that in Serbia to start a small business in the local area is more difficult. And then this, of course, makes it difficult for local governments in Serbia to obtain competitive contracts for small jobs in local areas because the small local operators are not there. Also, the World Bank found that the intermunicipal services have to be approved centrally in Belgrade through a process involving the Chamber and the Ministry. But even so, there's no central source of information about the services to the passengers. So they concluded that the system is inflexible, it doesn't incentivise efficiency, and it limits capacity. So what recommendations do we find? The World Bank recommend to abolish the minimum vehicle and driver regulations, to implement the EU regulation 1071/09, which allows a one vehicle operator with a minibus to provide a public service if properly licensed. So as to encourage competition and growth, making it easier to register required services. If protection times to control the headway between operations, if they really need it, they may be better set at the bus station level for the local information, local circumstances. And then they recommended use of open data for efficiency and better public service. We discussed a bit about this earlier this afternoon. From the draft National Transport Strategy, the recommendation was to encourage the local governments, the municipalities, to get together to form joint road and public transport areas, centred on which we called it RPTAs, centred on the 28 cities. So with each area around a city, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 municipalities getting together, and the area able to get permits or to sponsor local bus services within that area. So coming back to open data, I'm from the UK, and so the UK has been somewhat of a pioneer in this. We developed what is called the Bus Open Data System, BODS, for local buses. It's just for local, in UK now it's just for local buses, which is a central digital platform managed by the Transport Ministry. BODS combines 4 different subsystems, a modified version of GTFS, which gives information on timetables, FETEX for information on fares, CINI, VM for vehicle tracking, and another thing that was stressed earlier this afternoon, bus stop identification. Each bus stop is clearly referenced and geotagged with georeferencing with an identification number, so you know exactly where is each bus stop. So by law, all local bus service providers, big or small, must give all this information to BODS. And BODS converts to different sources to give it a consolidated information which can be accessed by operators, the government, the providers of apps, software, and through them to the public. Similarly, in the EU, now they're developing data for PT, as they call it. They've had experiments in several countries, including Croatia, and it's quite well developed now. But this will differ from the British system in that it will cover all public transport, not just buses, including buses, long-distance coaches, trains, and ferries. And I've been reading that Finland is perhaps the most advanced in this. They have a very advanced system of compulsory provision of all this information to allow mobility as a service and other applications for the public. So change is coming. Firstly, municipalities need to be given the duty, not just the right, which they have now, but a duty to provide local transport for their citizens. This is lacking in Serbia at the moment. And then, of course, local competition, including small firms and small vehicles, can make this more affordable. A combination into the RPTAs will give a better chance to agree schedules, find financing, arrange procurement, etc. None of these things are easy for small municipalities when working on their own. Consolidation of personnel and coordination between the municipalities will make a big difference. And we talked earlier about illegal operations. Many of the informal services, with these reforms, many of the illegal informal services that are on the road today can be more easily provided legally within the legal framework, which will encourage innovation and service development. And that would enable many, or most even perhaps, of the illegal operations to come out of the shadow economy and into the tax system. And this will reduce the burden to government of trying to enforce the existing law. So for communities, there are many benefits of such changes. And for the operators, the benefits include more flexibility to develop existing and new routes and markets, the reduction in informal, unfair, illegal operations, expanding the legal market. It will give good opportunities to improve vehicle and driver utilisation, which will allow more investment in vehicles and facilities, which in turn will bring more passengers and with fair competition, the efficient firms will prosper. Challenges to come. Well, the EU legislation, if Serbia continues on its EU path, this will come anyway. So why not embrace change? Why not don't wait? Because of the benefits we've been talking about. Also, you must think about railway modernisation. This is a growing threat to the bus transport market, of course. And of course, decarbonisation will be a big challenge, needing cleaner, greener vehicles, expanded services, and promotional work, working together with the RPTAs will be very beneficial regarding the passenger environment, the bus stops, especially roadside bus stops, and the shelters, which, when I travel around Serbia and I look at the bus shelters along the highways, I would say they're disappointing. So this kind of thing, the RPTAs can get together with the operators and make improvements with real-time information, better local services. This would be the local RPTAs working together with the operators to make the improvements. So partnerships between central and local governments and the bus industry will be key. So to make change, there needs to be a dialogue between the industry and government regarding the World Bank proposals or similar reforms, and harmonisation with the EU regulation 1071/09. A dialogue should start with the municipalities, local governments, about combining forces around the city areas to create joint road and public transport areas. This actually can benefit road maintenance as well, which is a problem in the rural areas. When you've got small local authorities without much resources, with road connections to the next door authority, it all gets very complicated at the moment. And so this is why we recommend in the draft NTS, we recommended this road and public transport authority looking at having a transport section looking at both. So a revision of the passenger transport law can remove the identified barriers to competition and development and allow dynamic growth and greater productivity and earnings. At the same time, we contributed to decarbonisation, improved air quality, social well-being, and the most important thing in effecting change is to keep the public informed about the changes and the benefit of the changes, and this will encourage national and local financial support. So there's some of the thoughts from this end. So thank you.
Thank you, Martin Kerridge. Ovo što ste imali prilike da vidite, to je strategija pokazala ili predložila. Pre nego što smo mi danas razgovarali. Znači, ja sam smatrao da je jako važno da mi ovo čujemo, obzirom na celokupnu diskusiju ovde u Vrnjačkoj banji.